Before you move your whole life out here to Cedar Park, there are 5 negatives that you need to consider. That's what today's video is about. And the last one is something that almost no one thinks about before they move out here, so stick around so that you can avoid a lot of potential pain. Number 1, the traffic. So if you have to go in and out of central Austin from Cedar Park, you're almost certainly gonna have to drive on 183, and during rush hour, that traffic can be horrendous. Now, they're always working on expanding 183, but I always joke that the transportation infrastructure in and around the Austin area is always around 15 years behind where we actually need it to be. That being said, if you don't have to commute in and out of central Austin, or maybe your job is up here closer to North Austin, or you work unorthodox business hours, or maybe you work from home, or maybe you just don't care about sitting in the car forever in the afternoon, this might not be an issue for you. But there's no way around it, no pun intended. This is definitely something that you're gonna wanna keep in mind. Number 2, there's no real downtown central city core in Cedar Park. So Cedar Park is kind of a weird hybrid city in my opinion. It didn't really start out as its own town. Cedar Park really started out as kind of an extension of Austin, a place where people could go, move out of town a little bit, have a little bit more land, pay a little bit cheaper prices. But over time, it really did start to become its own thing. Therefore, there's no downtown like you see in a lot of these Austin suburbs like Buda, Pflugerville, Round Rock, like they've got a quintessential little quaint downtown city square, but Cedar Park doesn't really have that. So there's no real nightlife here. Now, there's plenty to do like hiking, biking, nature stuff, but if you want that kind of downtown bar, nightlife, city life, you gotta go down into Austin. Number 3, a lack of local food options. Now, that's gonna be true about just about any suburb, but something that you're gonna wanna keep in mind is that Cedar Park is not exactly a foodie's paradise. But if you really want world-class fine dining options, you gotta go down into Austin. That said, Cedar Park is getting a lot more local Austin kind of small chains coming into town over the last couple of years. For example, you got Jack Allen's Kitchen, Tumble 22, Foxhole, Ramen Tatsuya, Style Switch Barbecue, the Peach Tortilla, and there are tons of options for all sorts of Asian food. But no, I'm still gonna say it's a negative because really most of your options are gonna be those big box chains, but it is changing. Number 4 is the growth. So back in the 70s, Cedar Park had about 1,400 people in it, and today in 2024, there are about 83,000 people here. So it's a pretty darn big city in its own right. And with that growth has come an affordability crunch. So back when I started my real estate business in early 2014, you could find a great house in Cedar Park for about $300,000. Now today, again in 2024, the average single family home price here is about $600,000. And also with that growth has come a lot of new construction. Now that's definitely tapering off recently because Cedar Park is pretty tapped out in terms of buildable land. Now, if you see a piece of land that you think you might be able to build on, chances are it's probably a nature preserve. Another way that the growth has changed Cedar Park is in terms of the political climate. So used to, a lot of conservative families would come here to escape kind of the liberal Austin political environment. But now these days, because a lot of people have come here for the affordability, it's kind of split 50-50 in my experience, kind of red and blue. Now, a lot of people don't like that, but a lot of people do like that. And number 5, the layout of the town is just confusing. Let me explain. So literally right now, Google Cedar Park and see what comes up. You're gonna see the city lines. It's not a nice little rectangle, a nice little circle. It's this weird jagged lines that go in and out of everywhere. Like you don't really know what to do with it. Some of Cedar Park is in Travis County, some is in Williamson County, some is in Leander ISD, and some is in Round Rock ISD. So what that means is if you go from neighborhood to neighborhood, the tax rates can vary wildly. In fact, Cedar Park actually has some pockets that aren't even in the city limits of Cedar Park. So what that means is that you won't be voting for a city council. Instead, you'll be voting for what's called a municipal utility district. That means you also won't have free access to the city library or discounted rates at city parks with the rentals or the city rec center. And it's not super obvious as you're driving around to the naked eye what's what. So you might see a great priced home in Cedar Park and then realize it's not actually in Cedar Park. It's on a septic system and you're not in the school district that you want to be in. You want to mess with that? Cedar Park has grown a ton over the last several years for a lot of good reasons. I mean, first off, the schools are freaking awesome. Most of the neighborhoods out here are zoned to Leander ISD and some are zoned to Round Rock ISD, and both are award-winning school districts. And there are parks and trails galore out here. Like, there is so much for kids to do in Cedar Park. And a lot of people come out here to avoid the hustle and bustle and prices of Austin. Look, there's no perfect city, but if you're not repulsed by these negatives about Cedar Park, the easiest way to learn more is to hit that link in the video description and let us help you out. But if you're really thinking about moving to North Austin, but you want a little bit more history and even more affordable prices, check out our video on Pflugerville.